Says too fucking honest, and that really, really describes me. My name is Diane Goldie. I'm an artist, a painter, and I work in textiles as well. And I am a living example of following your bliss. Once you can get to that deep acceptance of who you are, that's the key. That's the key to happiness. I find it through meditation, I find it through dancing, I find it through laughing, I find it through eating, I find it through friends, I find it through flowers, I find it through my dog. Oh, you gotta love a dog. I find it through music. There's so many ways into presence. And for me, that is the secret of happiness. Women and grief. I think women have a particular unique segue into grief when they have children, because there's that part of a labour called transition where you face your own mortality, whether you understand that you're transitioning from the maiden part of your growth into the mother part of your growth. I remember with my firstborn having this overwhelming feeling of I'm going to die. This is too much, I'm going to die. And I had the team of doctors around me and they were kind of looking worried. And I'm thinking, I'm going to die, but it's okay because this child is going to come through and that's fine. And sort of accepting death at that moment. And so it was quite profound for me, because the daughter that I gave birth to when I accepted death was the daughter that I lost through her taking of her own life in 2016. So that became almost a cyclic journey for me. But for me, her death has taught me such a lot. It taught me such a lot about surrender and acceptance, and getting to a point where you really, really have unconditional love for your child. And my unconditional love was accepting that my daughter's mental health was in such a way that she couldn't see a path through continuing to live, and to a point where she actually wanted me to be proud of what she did. Not that I'm condoning suicide in any way, I'm not, but it is my journey of absolutely accepting her for who she was, who she is, who she remains. The thing that got me through the most was this word surrender. It was accept that we're all going to die. We are all going to die. She just died a little bit quicker than I would have liked. There's this beautiful expansion that can come. I call it the gift of grief. If you can really, really accept it for what it is and not numb yourself, not go into denial. Of course, denial is part of one of the phases of grief. It's not a problem if you go there, everybody does it. But to allow yourself to go through these tides of grief and then get through all of the different stages, the bargaining, the depression, and then get to the end of it where you get to acceptance. There's such a gift of the appreciation of life once you get there, because I speak to a lot of people about death in my daily life, because I'm too fucking honest. It's the way I view myself, and some people find it hard. If you can get to the point of acceptance, life is so much more beautiful, because you appreciate every single moment. Because I remember the moment of being a 10-year-old girl entering puberty early, and I remember that moment of going from being my parents' child, so not having a sense of self, to having this incredibly enticing sense of self when men noticed me. So I'd dress up as a 10-year-old in kind of like what I thought were sexy clothes. They probably weren't. They're probably just my normal clothes. And I would walk along the road so I could get the cars hooting at me, because it made me feel like I existed. And that's where I encountered the male gaze at 10. I mean, it's sad, isn't it? I based my identity on how men saw me. I was introduced to sex very early, probably too early, by a much older man. I don't want to sort of really sit on that for too long, because that was then, this is now. But I'm just sort of saying the way it was for me. I was 10, he was 13. No, I was 13, he was 36. So, let's leave that there. So I learnt sex was about pleasing men, because that's where I found my self-esteem. I also learnt that my body didn't belong to me. That my body was just for pleasing others. Combine that with a narcissistic mother, who I always had to please, a little bit toxic. But I've really managed to unpack all that. So my sexuality, I really considered was kind of like hardwired into a pleasing path from a very early age. And it was also very twisted because it came through abuse. It didn't come through a natural sort of fumbling relationship. And I think this is a case for a lot of women, including both of my daughters, I discovered very painfully. And then I entered marriage. And then I put my little white picket fence around me and decided I was normal. And I had my 2 children and I played then the wife role, and I was very, very faithful. Very faithful. Because I knew right from wrong, you see. And I knew that when you were in a marriage, you were faithful. You kept to that person. And then, because we're human, my ex-husband wasn't. And then I discovered that, and so we divorced. But it was very interesting during the marriage part of it that my libido completely bottomed out during the marriage. And I remember even, it was the early days of the internet, and I remember writing a help post on the internet saying, I don't know what to do, my libido's gone. Where's it gone? I took myself to the doctor, my hormone tests came back normal. I didn't know myself without it. I felt that I was empty somehow. I'd lost my sense of identity because it was all built on this very fragile kind of construct of my sexuality. It wasn't my real sexuality because it was built on something wrong. And everybody on the internet, coming back to the message on the internet, everybody on the internet gave me the answer that I didn't want. They kept saying, you're depressed. You're depressed. And I was so in denial. I kept saying, no, I love my husband. I love my husband. I'm not depressed. But I was depressed. And as soon as he did me a favour, actually, by cheating, because that gave me a reason to leave and a reason to kind of reclaim myself. And then I hit menopause. And, well, I went through perimenopause, which was the fires charging up and the fires charging up. And it was like this nuclear inferno going on inside me. And I noticed that my libido had completely bottomed out. But I was fine with it. There was a new peace that came with that. Menopause, it gets a bad rap. I chose to do it the natural way. I just let my body change. It kind of goes with the way I think. I'm very skeptical of the sort of medicalizing of a woman's natural processes. I do understand there's a lot of women, again, disclaimer, women choose to do what they need to do for them. It didn't suit me to take hormones. I felt I wanted to embrace this, going through from mother to crone. So much so that at my 50th birthday, I created a croning ceremony for myself and had a party and invited people to come and watch me become crone. I didn't even know what I was doing at the time, I remember, but I think thinking back now, it was such a beautiful symbolic gift to myself. So when menopause hit, okay, I did a 10-year stint of perimenopause, so it didn't really hit suddenly. It was like 10 years of craziness. My daughter actually tells me about me in perimenopause. I don't remember being grumpy. I don't remember being a horrible person, but apparently I was. Sorry. I have this wonderful clarity of my thinking processes that I never had before. So I can join dots really, really nicely now. But it was the menopause that freed me from the constraints of patriarchy because it removed the male gaze. Brilliant. No longer did I have to walk down the road and adjust myself through how other people are looking at me. I could walk down the road as the weird, eccentric lady and love it and own it. When my libido dropped, my creativity soared. And I kind of understand now that libido and creativity come from the same chakra, from the root chakra, the red chakra. So when your procreation days are over, your creativity then switches over. So when you can't procreate, you can create. So that energy gets transmuted. So now I sit in a kind of not a sexless state. I wouldn't rule it out if I had met somebody who I really liked or really excited me. I'm not saying that couldn't be reignited, But I'm very comfortable with where I'm at. I'm very comfortable with being very expressive with my body now, by using it to dance, by using it to paint, by using it to create, by using it to hug people. How much joy can you get from hugging people? Now we go on to fashion. Fashion, or as I like to call it, the clothes we wear. Or the fabric we drape around our bodies, because clothes tend to hold meaning depending on how you drape them, and I've always found that really, really odd. Like if you take a flat piece of cloth and drape it around that leg and tight, then you must be a man. Or if you drape it one way around your legs, then you must be a woman. It makes no sense to my brain, none at all. There's symbolism that gets put onto clothes. I create clothing, I create robes that I can tell a story of the human that inhabits the robe. So I've discovered that's my skill. They're roomy, so they're comfortable. Often they have big sleeves, so if you put your arms out and it's a woman inside it, that woman is taking up lots of space. It's a sort of very visual statement. I like bright colours. I like people to notice I'm here, and I like women especially to stand in their glory. If I create for women, I often ask them what do they want on the backs of their robes. And they'll often come up with fairly generic things. Flowers, butterflies, which I love and I use a lot, but generally in kind of borders and kind of frames. And I'll often say to them, what about a portrait of yourself? And I feel the pushback, and I sit there and I hold it. And I said, look, a lot of women, I've offered this to a lot of women, and they've ended up really taking it and really being happy that they made that decision. And I'm telling you, it's not vain. Basically, you're owning your own image by doing this, because your image has been taken by male gaze, and you're only validated through that. So if you put your own image on your back and make yourself glorious, you're saying, not only am I beautiful and I know it, I'm beautiful because I exist. I'm beautiful because of who I am as a unique human being. I've often been told that my work is medicine. When I work in a state of presence. So I don't think, there's no thought processes. I don't design anything. There's nothing preconceived ever. I work in the moment as I'm creating. It happens. And whatever happens, that's it. It's the first and last decision ever made. And I've been doing it now for 7 years. I've never made a dud. I've never had anything rejected. In fact, I've just created my first wedding kimono, which has just been, or wedding robe, which has been the real honor to do. And I sent photographs to the bride-to-be, and she was literally speechless. She was crying and laughing on the voice note, saying, "You have got me exactly." And it's a process. I think once you're in presence, you have access to everything. You have access to all the information about that human being. It's a bit like kind of like a psychic process where they say, you know, you can do remote readings of people just by sort of tuning into them. I think that's what I do, but I don't know how it's done, and I don't care. I just know I can do it. And it's the most incredible thing to be able to do for women. And for men too. I do them for men too. The men that come to me are normally my kind of men, often gay men, which is kind of my kind of men, or men that are willing to step outside the patriarchal construct, or non-binary. In fact, I've been playing with a non-binary concept myself for a while. And I'm teetering on the edge of just saying, yeah, that's me. Not sure yet. And my fascination with drag, I think that's where it comes from. Because I think women every day wear drag. They wake up in the morning barefaced and they go, okay, what incarnation of myself am I going to present to the world today? That is drag. It's a choice of how you're going to present. Am I going to present as the authentic me, no makeup, just in comfortable clothes? Am I going to present as the glamorous me? Am I going to present as the powerful me? You know, what realness am I going to present today, which is drag? So kind of, yeah, I see clothing as drag, ultimately. And the ultimate expression of who you are.